Well, you've got opportunity in this very community. He's Flam, we're the world-famous Flim and Flam brothers. Traveling sales, ponies, nonpareil. So in case you can't already tell, I've always thought that Flim and Flam made for some really fun characters back in Season 2. And I admit that I've been rather curious about whether they might be making another appearance in the show sometime down the road. So it made for a rather pleasant surprise when I saw that they were going to be taking part in another Applejack episode. They may be sneaky, underhanded scoundrels, but they certainly made things a lot more fun. And I became all the more curious on just how their second appearance would affect the Apple family. As the episode begins, we see the Apples enjoying a swim together, although the fact that Applejack still has her hat on even in the water is going just a little too far. Seriously, who does that? We do learn that Granny Smith once came close to breaking the all-time diving record in Equestria, so it is nice to see a little more of her backstory. But when she was talking about being afraid of going back into the water even after all these years, I started getting a sense of what kind of lesson they were going for here. And sure enough, as soon as I started hearing that circus music, I could pretty much predict every step of this story for the rest of the episode. But while I certainly would have preferred a few more surprises, a predictable story does not necessarily make for a bad episode. Enter Flim and Flam, still being just as charismatic as ever, able to wow their audience and getting them to believe whatever they so choose. Although this time around it's not all about apple cider. Instead we have a far more traditional cure-all tonic, an essential staple for con men throughout the centuries. But really, all throughout these first few seconds of them being on stage, I was waiting to see whether we'd be getting a catchy new tune. And sure enough, Flim and Flam return with another song. And really, I think most of us were expecting to see this. These two are all about entrancing an audience, and once again they put on a great show. However, I don't think this new piece is quite as catchy as their Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 song. They do a great job at explaining their product, just like the first time around. They get the audience to start singing right along with them and getting all excited about trying the tonic for themselves. But when I compare the two songs that Flim and Flam have done, the first one just had more to it. The lyrics were more memorable, the build-up in the music had much more excitement in it, and the climax felt all the grander as well. I will say that this new piece did make for an enjoyable show. It's just that I really prefer the one they did back in Season 2. It's just a lot more fun to sing along with. So as expected, Granny Smith has overcome her fears and hesitations right after using the tonic. And of course Applejack still doesn't trust that Flim and Flam are on the level. So after a little digging and being introduced to one Silver Shill, I figured that this story would likely include Applejack's key, but I was thinking that maybe it would be Flim and Flam who would end up learning something. Although that really would take away from any of their future appearances if they showed that they weren't going to be scoundrels anymore. So I guess it is a better idea to introduce a one-shot character that likely won't be coming back anytime soon. And just like last time, we see that Flim and Flam are doing their research, always trying to be a step ahead by knowing exactly what to say to Applejack even before she tries to expose their lie. And in this case, there seems to be a bit more of a reason for Applejack to play their game. Seeing Granny Smith being more positive and reinvigorated with a zest for life is something that would give Applejack pause. But it really isn't that hard to see just where this is leading to. We get to see yet another example of how a little white lie can quickly spiral out of control. And just like most every other little white lie, Applejack started with the best of intentions and didn't step up when her actions were just beginning to make things worse. Now, we did see somewhat similar circumstances during Sweet and Elite, although Rarity was the one making up the little white lies back then. In both cases, with Rarity and Applejack, they felt hesitant about being caught in their lies. However, in this episode, we actually see Applejack owning up to the lie when she realizes just how much harm it's causing. As opposed to Rarity, who, for all we know, has never told her friends about her lying in the first place. So we end up getting a very predictable but still extremely worthwhile lesson about honesty. Believing in something can help you do amazing things. I've seen some truly fantastic feats from people in my life that came from nothing more than the placebo effect. There really is an immense power that comes from self-confidence. But if that belief is based on a lie, eventually it's going to lead to real trouble. And honestly, I really wish that more people would be willing to help others see the truth in situations like this. Because even Granny Smith was able to overcome her fear even after learning that tonic was a fake. So I can really appreciate this kind of lesson. I will say that I was expecting more out of this episode when I found out that Flim and Flam were making a return. And although they did put on a great performance with their clever wit and greedy behavior, I think I still prefer their appearance back in Season 2. They were given more focus back then, so we were able to see more of their enjoyable antics. Now, I certainly don't think that Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 was even close to a perfect episode. It had more than a few problems and inconsistencies. And I think Leap of Faith actually did have fewer issues and a far better moral. Especially since the lesson of the first one was, I didn't learn anything. But while the Season 2 episode had more problems, I think it also had more to enjoy. I did laugh at a couple of moments here, especially that scene with Lyra. But I remember laughing a lot more at how much punishment Rainbow Dash was going through. So overall, I do think Leap of Faith is a worthy episode. Predictable, yes, but its lesson is something that I hope a lot more people would apply in their everyday lives. It's just that this episode is not quite on the level of Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 when it comes to the overall enjoyment. Fewer problems, yeah, but not as many standout moments. In the meantime, though, I would like to hear your thoughts. Have you been looking forward to Flim and Flam's return? Do you think they were any more enjoyable here compared to their first appearance? What about Applejack? Did you like her portrayal from start to finish? Or do you think they could have done something more with her character? Are you a fan of Flim and Flam's new song? How do you think it compares to their first piece? I would like to hear your thoughts on Leap of Faith, and here's to hoping that we can all handle a little more truth in our lives. I am DRWolf, and I look forward to hearing from you. Now I'm getting all curious. Will the final key be found by Twilight or by Spike?